Yo, this is Sip, aka I am Ketovore. Well, I wasn't. So here's how this little video is gonna go. I'm gonna go ahead and just talk about my whole experience over the last life, and then the last year slash year I did mostly carnivore for a little bit, and then I went to a ketovore lifestyle for a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and get into all of that, how I relapsed to my old ways, and now I need to get back on track. So that's what this video is. So I would love it if you would like to stick around and leave comments in below, down in the comment section. Let me know your struggles. Let me know if you can relate to any of this. That's the main reason why I'm doing this. I want to know if this video is gonna help relate to other people, maybe get things moving for them. Um, Also, it's going to be for my benefit, just getting stuff out there, getting my thoughts clear. So there's no real, this is basically a tangent. There's no itinerary, there's no script, there's no anything. And so it's just me, the mic, and the camera, you guys. So without further ado, I guess let's get into it. Growing up, regular regular kid, regular household, Mexican household. What did we eat a lot of? We weren't necessarily poor, but I guess, maybe didn't know any better. We grew up on bologna and spam and weenies and macaroni and milk and we had some meats in there, rice, beans, all of this stuff, right? Sugar, donuts, anything, regular stuff, tamales every now and again, homemade tortillas, flour tortillas, and yeah, so we didn't have like steaks. Every once in a while, we'd have pork chops, and we'd have like real thin steak with our food, but it was a lot of filler, a lot of pancakes, a lot of rice, a lot of beans, a lot of potatoes. Potatoes is the main staple, right? So that's how we grew up. A lot of times we didn't have high quality food. A lot of eggs. Uh, Going back, looking back, it was actually an okay diet. It's just there were things in there that we probably could have left out because of the way it affected us. Food doesn't affect everybody the same way. It just doesn't. With lifestyle, with how energetic you are, with how mobility, if you're out and about, you know, uh, food doesn't affect everybody the same way. There's good food in plants and there's good food in animal products, but the commonality is that processed food is generally should be avoided for the most part. And this is my story on how I proved to myself, for me, that is very much true. That processed food is not good for me, and it may not be good for you. Maybe once in a while, sure. Just like anything in moderation, as they say. But with me, I'm pretty much too much or too little. So it's either or. And my entire life, with everything in my life, finding a middle ground has been a tough deal for me. So, with that said, let's get into my weight as a child. I was in high school, 10th grade. I had hip surgery because I grew too fast and my weight pulled my hip out of socket. At that time, I weighed 275 pounds in the 10th grade. So that put me like at what, 16, 275. Been pretty much obese my entire life. And I've tried all kinds of diets. Did I stick to them? No. But I knew right away that they wouldn't work for me. Um, they just didn't. And eventually they could have, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do. And if a diet or a lifestyle change is not something that you want to do, that you're fully behind and you're fully pumped to do it, it's not going to work because you're always going to go back to what you know. And that's kind of what I did. So I've lived that kind of lifestyle, eating whatever, eating fast food. I would eat, in the drive-through. I would go to the drive-through and I would just park in the parking lot and eat my food. That was kind of like quite a few times I would do that. I would go to Little Caesars and buy a whole pizza and eat it in the parking lot or eat it on the way home. That type of deal. And I couldn't figure out why I was like always like hungry, you know. And then over time, my body started to tell me that, and I really couldn't pinpoint it, I guess, throughout my existence. But I suffered from depression, and it got worse as I got older. Um, Suicidal thoughts quite often, multiple times a day. Not that I would do it, but it was to the point that I would plan like different scenarios of how I could go painlessly and quickly, which is quite disturbing. If you know. Anyway, uh, then my mom passed, and things got a little worse, and my fiance basically kicked me out. She's not gonna like hearing this if she's watching this. She basically kicked me out. So I went to Alaska, and it was probably the best thing that could have happened to my life. And let me explain. So I met some really cool people. Uh, Met my homie, the one that I went to go stay with. Shout out to you if you're watching this. And through there, we lived pretty far away from town, and so it wasn't walking distance by any means. You got to go. You got to drive. And during the winter, who wants to go out in winter? That type of deal. So slowly, I was restricting my food, and then I started, becoming more depressed on days and trying to figure out why I started restricting the types of food I would eat. I would be like, you know what? Let me just try this. Let me try eating more vegetables. Let me try, eating more meats. Let me stay away from the breads and all of that stuff. And I would have I have swelling in my legs. I was on blood pressure medicine and water pills, furosemide. I was taking those. I got varicose veins. Uh, Other than that, my health was pretty good, aside from being fat. And I started playing around with, let me do away with bread. And I would just eat rice, vegetables, and chicken towards the to the end part. And I started losing some weight. I started feeling some better, a little bit better. But then some days I would still have depression, and it turns out those were the days that I would like go long periods of time with eating starch, potatoes, rice, breads, particularly. Um, and then I started just going to vegetables and chicken with no rice, no bread, coffee. Um, I would still eat candy at this point, and I started to feel better. I started to lose some weight, but I was still not quite there. And when I was working at the university, I met my coach, um, and my coach has gone through a tumultuous early upbringing, to say the least, and it's not one that we would wish upon anybody. It was a very rough, to say the very least, is a very rough childhood. So many obstacles stacked against him, and it's very heartbreaking to hear that he went through all that. But you know, everybody has a purpose, and Now he's figured this thing out for himself and other people too. And he started telling me about carnivore. And at first, I really wasn't listening. I was like, yeah, it's just, in my mind, it's just another diet. And it just took one little thing. If I remember correctly, this was last year, so it's only been a year, a little over a year. Uh, he told me that fried bologna, because if I remember correctly, I was talking to him about fried bologna and eggs and how I used to eat that all the time. And I had started just kind of like coming to the idea because he was explaining that it's just, it's more than just a lot of meat, but it's the right way to do that. But I really love meat. Growing up, I hated vegetables, and I had to force myself to love vegetables, which is the weird thing. This is just me, right? This is my thing. And I told him that when we growing up, we used to eat a lot of fried bologna, butter. We used to use manteca lard, um, and I don't have any like health problems or anything like that. He's all, he goes, that's uh, I can't remember what he said, but what I'm feeling he said was, that's pretty much how you should eat for the most part. Uh, and and I was like, he goes, you could have all the eggs and fried bologna and spam you want. And I was like, really? He goes, yes. When you're starting out, if those are the things that you can afford, and those are the things you start out with. Um, so you don't have to go all in and get the ribeye. Sure, that's ideal, the organ meats and all that. But you could start out with the low quality foods and work your way up, because for me, any small progress in the right direction to get to your goal is how it should be going, right? So if you got to start with just eggs and bologna and weenie hot dogs and that kind of thing, just do that. Just do that, and slowly you'll transition. And sure enough, that's pretty much what happened. I started doing that. I started feeling better. I started losing some weight. I started having more energy. Oh, lo and behold, I was like, hey, coach, look, I could touch the floor. I could touch my toes. I can sprint and have all this energy. And I was feeling good. I was finding that I wasn't needing 8 hours of sleep, 9 hours of sleep, 10 hours of sleep. Um, I was just getting like 6 hours of sleep, and I was feeling great, right? So this is still in Alaska, and my fiance comes up to visit, and then all of a sudden it's like we want to go out and do things, but it's like not much. So we ended up cooking in the hotel, and I remember this one instance when we went to kind of like a fair type thing, and they had all these smells and everything, and it's been already like 2 months at this point, restriction, and I was feeling great. I didn't need any of that other stuff. Uh, and I remember an overwhelming sensation to the smells and all this. It was more of a psychological thing, but it triggered an emotion like all. It's very hard to unwind used to what you're used to growing up, living a day-to-day life type thing. It's very hard to erase that. So the only thing you can do is stop, analyze, address, figure out what you're feeling, draw a conclusion, and then move on. You got to look at it from that. At least for me, I got to look at it from that standpoint and be like, okay, what am I feeling? What am I smelling? Process it, and then determine and decide not to. Well, it was a very rough time, but I got through that, and I stayed the course. And Oh, yeah, I dropped and kept going. Moved back in August, and that was pretty rough. Moving back because all of a sudden I'm close to everything, and then the boys got to have regular food, and it's all stuff that I love, right? And for the most part, I did pretty good from staying away. I would have my ice cream splurges, and then cramps would ensue, and then it's like, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing that. Get back on track, and I'd be maintaining my weight. Uh, then it was the big kicker was a Halloween night event. This We went to a party, and there was a chef, a baker, that made these awesome desserts, and I still remember the desserts. They were so good. Probably because I hadn't had desserts like that in many months, and I did, and I think that was a catalyst to let things go a little bit, and then I still kind of like bounced back and forth, started gaining some weight, and I noticed things started to change a little bit more. And then most recently, I started working at a gas station, and that's proven to be more difficult than I anticipated because I found myself sliding back on everything. So eventually, it was like, you know what, anything goes. Let's do it. Let's go back to regular eating, not counting calories, just eating whatever I wanted. Um, then the weight started gaining back. I was probably eating quite a bit of calories too, a lot of starches, a lot of breads, and so there are things that disappeared that have come back. So I am back at square one again. I am when I officially started carnivore. I think I was like 360 something. So I'm not quite there yet, but at the same time, I don't want to go backwards anymore. Like I'm tired of going backwards. To put it in perspective, when I started there at the store, they gave me a work short shirt that fit good. It felt like the way it should fit. Now it's kind of tight. So that kind of gives you an idea. It's 55 pounds since my lowest weight that I've gained back. And that's because I started eating breads and rice and candy and ice cream and all this other processed foods that I shouldn't have been eating. And now I got inflammation back in my fingers, and my fingers are hard. Uh, they were they were nice and good before, uh, when I was on Ketovore. And now my swelling on my legs are back to what it used to be. Um, Pain in my legs again. All this stuff that started to go away has come back. Like I can't bend over as much. I don't have energy. I'm starting to hit depressions again. I'm yeah, just not focused anymore, not wanting to do the things that I was doing before. And it's very disheartening to me now that I look back on it. But I think I have to use that as an example because I just kind of proved that to myself. I like really cemented myself that the processed foods is like an occasional once every couple of months, like little, maybe a little cake or something. Even then, when I was not eating the way, when I was eating carnivore and then I would have that cake, it would adversely affect me. So I don't even know if that can be in the future for me at all. But I guess my point is I'm going back to carnivore, transitioning to a very high carnivore slash ketovore lifestyle. And I think I've had enough, and I think I've proven to myself that the 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 optimal way is the one ingredient as close to nature as my coach says, and keep it no sugar, very little sugar, processed sugar, and just do away with it completely and get back to what it was and see where we can go from here. So I suspect, because I started yesterday, well, last night I had kind of like a fast last hurrah. I had two things of nachos with cheese and chili, and I had an ice cream bar. What else did I have? I had a Coke Zero. At least I had a Coke Zero. Uh, and I had a bunch of ice cream earlier in the day. So it was kind of a last hurrah. And this morning I've had eggs and beef tallow, and I feel pretty good. I'm gonna have some fish here in a little bit. Um, I weighed 350 today. Swelling in my legs, hands. I'm a little bit clearer because that sugar I think is on its way out. Um, so this is where we're at. So I am going to be posting more on the I Am Ketovore channel. This is the I Am Ketovore Shorts channel, but I'm going to put a link below to the I Am Ketovore. I am going to go through and start creating content like I originally wanted to in the very beginning. Creating content, just re-immersing myself in learning the health and learning the carnivore and the ketovore and the different way these things affect me, hoping that it'll give somebody else the idea to try and figure out for themselves what is ailing them. Because I firmly believe that due to ancestral lineage, where you come from, I think that diet of how your ancestors used to be would be the best diet for your DNA, your structure, yourself. I might be wrong. That's just a feeling that I have. But I think I ate a lot of meat as my ancestors. I think my ancestors ate a lot of meat because it was very hard for me to learn to love onions and pickles and spinach and kale. And you know how many times I had to try that stuff before I started liking it? I think carrots I liked from the very beginning, probably just because of the high sugar content. And I want to be like Bugs Bunny uh, and have good eyes or something. I don't know. They're very high in sugar though. Uh, yeah, so I'm winding down. I'm kind of like, so that's where I'm at. I am ready to go. I'm going to be posting more, learning, going over actual. Uh, I'm going to try this. We'll try it and see how it does. We're going to be going over more studies, talking about studies. I'm going to do just review for myself and educate and put to video so that way it stays up here with me. And that's how I learn, by teaching others and going back and reviewing it on video. And that's why I'm leaving this here, so this way I could just go back and remember what I said. Fortunately, that's where my brain is at. Yeah, so I'm looking for. Okay, I'm just rambling at this point. Here's my goal: carnivore for the next 30 days. Strict carnivore, as best as I can. Start reading labels again. Start analyzing if it's got a name in there that you can't pronounce. Don't eat it. Caffeine, I'll stick to the caffeine, and pepper is my plants. It's very hard though when you have a fiance that cooks, because I can see it sometimes. Her, I don't know, maybe her disappointment when I can't eat her food, and then I end up making something else. And I think that was another thing that kind of like allowed me to slip back to my original ways, because she still wanted to make food for the boys, regular food, potatoes, rice, all that stuff. And she does her best to accommodate me, but at the same time, gotta accommodate them. And that was my biggest thing that I couldn't separate, and I just gave in to just eating what they eat. Like, oh, that's okay. I'll just eat with you guys. It's a very, very communal thing to eat with somebody and break bread with somebody, and you know. But I think my health is more important to be around. I will be 47 tomorrow, and yeah, I'm only getting older. So, with that said, I want to thank you for watching. I don't think there's anything else. Uh, it's probably not. This is not the video that I had in mind. I imagined it a lot better than this, but post your comments below. Post your successes and your mistakes. Post the Spiller community. I'm looking forward to being more engaging and making content and sifting through all the BS and bring what works for me and hope that maybe it'll help somebody else. That's the only thing that I can do. Um, Daily scales are going to start happening again, even when they get stagnant. Um, there's going to be a lot of up and downs. I think it's going to be cool to see. Um, yeah, thank you for watching. And I am Ketovore, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.